family members have been very unwell, and a lot of them have been keeping to the law. It's taken
not the 150 that went to the wedding, Aaron.
Correct. There are a very small minority of people that decide not to keep to the law, as is in every community. But I believe that one of the fundamental reasons why they decided to carry on doing weddings is because it's actually the first commandment in the Bible is to be fruitful and to multiply, and it's so ingrained, and they believe that if you don't carry on the generations, then society will fail. I know that sounds a bit sort of draconian, but
you don't support it, do you? Breaking the law?
No, not at all. I mean, there have been many marriages that were done according to the law, i.e. 20 people, at the time 30 people. But what I would like to point out, for instance, is last week the local ambulance, Hatsola, did a vaccine drive on Saturday evening for the local community, and they had hundreds and hundreds of people coming. I think the vaccine minister himself came along.
Yes. Was this in Hackney?
This was in Stamford Hill, correct.
Yeah, right, okay.
Many people and rabbis and the local Orthodox Union have been sending out flyers. And another thing I wanted to say actually was that even the Jewish media itself, the local newspapers, they write very up-to-date news, and it's not true that the only news is religious news.
Okay, just fine. And obviously you know far more than I do, sir, and I'm grateful for it. Given all of what you said, why would, on more than one occasion, 150 plus people go to these weddings? It's not right, Aaron.
No, I do condemn that very strongly. And again, I must say that's only a small minority of the community. And as you probably know, it's the smaller ones that make the most noise.
It is, my friend. It is. You be well. Thank you. Interesting to get the perspective from someone living up in Stamford Hill. Best of health to you and all your family. Aaron, thank you. Talk vaccines with you, Sheba, in just a moment. Let's go, though, to conversation now concerning this story that I mentioned just before the news. Residents who have diesel cars could have to pay extra to park them outside their home under council proposals to improve air quality. Now, admittedly, this is one local authority. This is Bath and North East Somerset, charging diesel drivers 25% more for a residential parking permit in order to reduce vehicle emissions. The council said its aim is to discourage unnecessary vehicle ownership and encourage people to switch to low-emission vehicles where owning a vehicle is essential. Now, I say again that this is in Bath and North East Somerset, but the London Borough of Islington was the first council to introduce a diesel surcharge on resident permits some years ago. That was increased as recently as 2019 from £99.65 to £120. And in 2018, a £2 per hour surcharge on diesel vehicles for short-stay parking was imposed. And I've noticed, not that I bring it in often, but I think the only one time I have brought my current car in, I paid more because, although I'm renewing it later this year, God willing, it is a diesel car. Let's bring Caroline Russell, who's of course a councillor, transport spokesperson of the Green Party London Assembly member, into the conversation, and is a councillor with Islington London Borough Council, which is why, of course, I reference what's happening in Islington. Good to have you on, Councillor.
Are you coming to help me on Saturday again, John?
But to keep his or her kids in a diesel van, be charged more to park outside.
Thank you.
Good morning.
We've definitely got one couple coming along on Saturday. Yeah, they phoned, so I know.
Tell them not to phone.
I did tell them not to phone, but I did put my contact numbers on this time, just as a change, because we didn't get anybody last Saturday. So some people, I think, they just want to speak to somebody. I mean, he didn't get any more information. He just wanted to speak to somebody before he came. So.
Okay, you're just clearing the U-bend.
Why this is being done. Now, I think the charge in Bath. Did you say it was? How much did you say?
An additional 25% for residential parking in Bath and North East Somerset.
Okay, so without knowing exactly what their general parking charges are, I don't know. But for instance, in Islington, if you're paying an extra £120 a year, that if you divide that down by weeks, it's under £2.50 a week.
Okay, I'll call you when I'm there.
vehicle.
Are you
the
aware of the
petrol vehicle.
differential in prices between vans regards diesel and electric? You know how much more expensive electric vehicles are, do you?
I am, and I'm also aware that
So there's a plumber who's just,
transferring-
he or she is, no, Caroline, hang on, there's a plumber who's just sunk his or her considerable savings into a diesel van because diesel engines typically go longer and obviously they can take all their kit around. And now, it's okay, it's only £2.50 a week or whatever it is to you, but they pay more when they park. I say again, why? Why penalise them?
Nick, this is about making sure that we can trust the air we breathe. We have people, we're living through a respiratory pandemic. We have people who are struggling for every single breath. We should be doing everything we can at a public policy level to make sure that
And why
air
not
is
ban
clean.
diesel cars in London? Because typically, realistically, if I've got enough money, I can drive my diesel van around London all day long. If you actually, not you personally, you know that, Caroline, but if folks such as you actually meant, you would ban diesel cars and vans from London, period.
Well, you know me, I'd like to reduce the overall number of vehicles in our city
No, just ban them then.
massively. Because
In reality, if you've got enough money, it's okay. If you've got enough money, you can pollute the air. If you're a fairly poorly paid plumber, no, you're going to have to pay an extra £2.50. Either ban them or don't. This is a halfway house.
Look, London is doing everything it possibly can to. It's got an ultra low emission zone coming out to the north and south circular.
Again, if I've got enough money, I can drive my
by
own car.
October.
Yeah,
Indeed,
again.
I agree with you. That's very unfair, and we should be doing something where we're charging people per mile because that incentivizes people to drive less.
Well, that's an interesting idea. Always enjoy speaking with you. Be well, thank you. Careful the air you breathe and the rest of London, of course. Caroline Russell is councillor in Islington, spokesperson for the Green Party and a Green Party London Assembly member. Let's get your views on it. Mark's in Lee Green, which is in South East London. Mark, you're on the radio. Good morning.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I'm all right. So what are you going to tell me?
Lewisham have already introduced this. It's been introduced about a year ago, maybe more.
Oh.
If you check the website permits, I think the minimum permit's about 120 quid.
I've just been on the paper. Sorry. Yeah. Hang on, you're absolutely right. £180 now in the London Borough of Lewisham.
Yeah, because my partner was going to get offered a place with the permit, so we thought I would check it. And this is when we found out they'd already introduced it.
I think it's an extra 50. Is it an extra 50 quid? I think, isn't it?
50 quid.
Yeah.
They said they're trying to obviously what the other one is keep the air clean and all that. But in the next breath, they're introducing these LTNs which are forcing the cars onto the other roads with more traffic and pollution. And as I said, it's a parking charge. You're not producing any toxic
No, of course.
by being parked. And then the words was they're still bringing it into the borough.
I'm sort of a bit further along the borough, or the other side of the borough to where you are, in Lee Green. Have you got a lot of LTNs where you are, lastly, Mark?
Yeah, well, they opened up a couple of them because obviously we was protesting down at Lewisham.
Yeah.
So they opened up a couple of them, but only for one way. You can go from Evergreen to Lee to Evergreen. You can't go the other way.
Right.
So you was that sort of 2-3 miles out of the way and 30 minutes on your journey just to go right minutes. And when you got to do stuff with people paying attention to stuff, it's really working out.
Look after yourself, Mark. I live in the London Borough of Lewisham. When I first moved there, I had a wife, so we had to get a parking permit, and it was £25 a year. And I thought that was a bit rich to pay to park outside your own house. £25 a year. Now, I can't remember what the car was, but it was a diesel. That would be £180 a year. That is incredible. Come back to that. And those royal interviews were not quite in full, but some of the lowlights of previous years. 9:45 LBC News headlines. Thomas Watts.
The Vaccines Minister has suggested accessibility issues are behind lower uptake of the coronavirus jab among care workers. Nicola Sturgeon's expected to make a final decision on the gradual reopening of schools in Scotland, and the government has set out tougher measures to protect free speech at universities in England. Rain clearing to leave some brighter spells before heavy rain returns later, a high of 10 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. For those who need to make a journey, there are delays on the M1 southbound in Hertfordshire from junction 9 at Redbourne and 8 at Hempstead. It's after those two accidents this morning. Everything's open now, but it's still very slow. Also on the M1 northbound at junction 17 at the M45, a lorry's broken down, so one lane is closed for recovery. Also for those who need to make a journey, there are problems in Worcestershire at the M42. One lane is closed northbound just after junction 2 at the A441, and in Leicestershire the A50 is closed eastbound at Cavendish Bridge after an accident.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, James O'Brien.
So Gavin Williamson is appointing somebody to police what students can and can't do, and that's a blow for free speech.
James O'Brien on LBC. Could you look an intensive care nurse in the eyes and tell them you're staying home? If you really need to go out, do you wash your hands the moment you get back? If you have to let someone in, like an emergency plumber, do you always open your windows to let in fresh air? Anyone can catch COVID-19. Anyone can pass it on. If we all stick to the rules, we can help stop the spread. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
What does it take to help an elderly man living with cancer? Organising his medication, getting his shoes on, trimming his ear hair, and reminding him that he's beaten cancer once before and that his life is far from over. We do whatever it takes to help people living with cancer, but we can only do it with your help. Donate online today at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support. Whatever it takes.
Need a website for your business? Then you need 123reg. With our new website builder starter tool, fill in a quick form and you can create a site in less time than it takes to brew a cup of tea. And it's just £1 a month. A website for £1. Yeah, like £1.
What don't you get, Gary?
I thought stuff like that was expensive. Terms and conditions apply. Register any business name at .co.uk for just 99p to get your one-page site online. Pricing excludes VAT at 20%. Visit 123-reg.co.uk for more information. £1 sterling.
Oh, this is going to be a long shift.
Euronics is different. Independently owned electrical retailers in over 600 local stores across the country, offering great brands, great service, great value, and always proud to be local. That's the Euronics difference. And right now they've got some great deals from leading brands like Bosch, Neff, and Siemens. So it's always worth a visit to see your local independent Euronics retailer. Find yours or shop online at euronics.co.uk.
The stunning Samsung Galaxy S21 series is here with next generation camera and video. It's epic from every angle, and with Vodafone you can save £360 guaranteed. Simply trade in a Galaxy S9 or S10 using our trading tool. Order online now and save £360 on the Galaxy S21 series. Ready? Vodafone.
Based on saving £15 per month on a 24-month plan. Return device must pass trading checks. Details and terms at vodafone.co.uk.
Calling all VAT registered construction businesses. HMRC is changing the way you process VAT with the introduction of VAT reverse charge from the 1st of March. Don't worry, reverse charge VAT is easy with zero. It automatically calculates the reverse charge and CIS.
I think there's been an accident on the coast road, John. You see all those ambulances, loads of ambulances, bikes going.
Visit xero.com/reverse charge.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
More about parking, problems we have a diesel vehicle with you, Graham, in just a moment. Now, two other matters. Just days after winning part of a bitter legal fight with the Mail on Sunday, the Duchess of Sussex, along with her husband, the Duke, or Meghan and Harry, have, it has been revealed, taped a 90-minute primetime special with Oprah Winfrey. Called Oprah with Meghan and Harry, a primetime special. It will be broadcast on the CBS US TV network on March the 7th. Many people are interpreting this as it adds weight to the theory the couple have no intention of ever returning to the UK, and it is also reported that it has sent shockwaves down the corridors of Buckingham Palace. What is interesting is that if you will allow a little over a year, well, last January this was going to be the biggest story of the year, wasn't it? Can you believe it? Duke and Duchess of Sussex. That will define the year's news. Hang on a second. Lurking in Wuhan or somewhere else we don't know. A little thing called COVID, which changed the world forever. But back to this couple. and Meghan have considerable success in her legal battle over privacy last week. This is a privacy case being heard, or had been heard. We're now going public to an audience. Obviously, we all counted in its billions when it goes globally. Well, what could possibly go wrong? LBC's political editor Theo Usherwood reminds us of some royal lowlights from previous interviews.
I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do.
The royal interview, it so often goes badly wrong. Even...
Well, it obviously means two very happy people.
That was Charles and Diana speaking on news of their engagement in February 1981. Fast forward 13 years, and the inevitable.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife when you took on the vow of marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were?
Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down.
If anybody thought that somehow that wasn't a bombshell interview, they only had to wait for Princess Diana's turn.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
And then there have been royals like Sarah Ferguson who didn't react well to the scrutiny of the cameras.
I mean, did you take the money? At one stage you had $40,000 cash sitting in front of you. Did you take
Absolutely, yes. And it was given to me and I got it in the car and then returned it straight away.
Once the scandal broke?
As soon as I knew it was a scandal, not once it broke, Michael. But don't try and trick me now, because I'm not going to play this game. Delete that bit. John, can you delete it, please, that bit? Because I don't want to go down this...
Duchess, I'm asking very fair questions of you.
No, I'm just too tabloidy.
That interview came after she was caught taking £40,000 in cash in return for offering an undercover reporter access to Prince Andrew, who, by the way, fared even worse as he tried to defend himself against allegations of links to paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
She described dancing with you, and you profusely sweating.
I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at. And I simply, it was almost impossible for me to sweat.
Now, there have been PR victories with softer focus interviews, like when Anton Deck interviewed Charles, William and Harry in aid of the Prince's Trust.
Do you have quite similar music taste, the two of you, or are you quite different in taste of music?
We're quite very. I'd say his was pretty shocking, but mine was.
Oh, really?
But apart from that, we tend to like pretty much the same music.
Yeah. These two, so you play this stuff and I'm sitting there going,
How will the Oprah interview go? We shall have to wait and see. But both Harry and Meghan have experience of laying their feelings bare on television.
We don't see each other as much as we used to because we're so busy. As brothers, you have good days, you have bad days.
Not many people have asked if I'm okay, but it's a very real thing to be going through behind the scenes.
And the answer is, would it be fair to say not really? Okay, it's really been a struggle.
Yes.
That interview, not long to wait. I'm sure there'll be plenty of coverage of that. Theo Usherwood reporting. Back to the rather mundane, more mundane matters. Pay more if you have a diesel car and you seek to park it outside your home. That's a crime, isn't it? Graham in Croydon. Graham, I don't think this is fair. Do you? Good morning.
No, good morning, Nick. Our road was made parking permit about 2 years ago, and the first year it cost me 250 quid.
Wow!
To park my van and my car.
Is that because it's oh, sorry. So that was 2 vehicles then?
Yeah, I've got a petrol vehicle and I've got a diesel van. But last year they upped it and I paid 650 quid for 2 vehicles.
So break that down for me. How much is the petrol and what are you parking?
Well, because I've got a 4x4, so that comes in the van 5, which is £300 a year.
What's that, like a Range Rover or something? Is it?
Yeah, it's a BMW.
Okay.
I've got a van that is actually a Euro 5 van.
No, I don't know what that means. What does that? Does that mean it's quite friendly?
That goes into van 2, really, but because it isn't stamped on my logbook, they automatically charge me 300 quid for that as well.
Goodness me.
So basically it's £300 for each vehicle.
Yeah.
Then it's £50 surcharge for the second vehicle, and now they're bringing in £50 surcharge for diesel. So it's going to cost me £700 this year to park my two vehicles.
Which is an extraordinary amount of money. I mean, that's somewhere around about £15 a week, isn't it? What do you say to that, lastly, Graham?
Well, it's just, I mean, if bear in mind that somebody could park their car, the same vehicle as mine, on a parking space outside their car, so they drive six foot, say, across the park, onto the road, then they're in the site. You know, if it's going to be emissions, surely that's on what the car puts out when it's actually running, not when it's parked.
Well, I mean, this is just to penalise people, isn't it? You're absolutely right. It's not as if you park it with the engine running. It's just to punish you. Graham, safe driving. I can't believe what I'm about to say. I can't.
Just dropping my heir apparent teeny point. So, I don't know, down here. Do you want to come down here? We go. Valletta. Why are you in Jabal? Okay, don't be late. No, ta-ta.
Sheba in West Norwood, last 30 seconds, the vaccine, Sheba. Why is it important to take it? Good morning.
Well, basically, what I want to say is I'm black. I've taken my vaccine. I'm very happy to do so. I'd like my freedom back. I'd like to travel the world. I'm making a bucket list. I've heard a lot of conspiracy theory. I started off as a skeptic, but then I started putting logic together, and I can't believe Britain will break itself for the sake of...
have any of your members of your family questioned the wisdom of you taking the vaccine, lastly, Sheba?
My family had taken it. My mum's taken it. I was surprised when I was invited because I'm 53, but I just jumped at the opportunity.
As will I. I'm a little older than you, but my goodness, I'm totally with you. Sheba well said you had the last word of the day. Sorry to so many people who couldn't get on, but the conversation continues. With James O'Brien, the other side of the news on LBC. I'm back with you tomorrow morning from 7. Meantime, stay safe.
Thank you, Nick. Do we fall into the trap of being distracted from the important stuff by talking about efforts to distract us from the important stuff? And is it even possible that nobody's trying to distract us from the important stuff, but we are humans, and therefore, I mean, almost psychologically incapable of constantly contemplating catastrophes? I don't know the answer to any of those questions, which has all the makings of a fertile, febrile, and one hopes thrilling selection of phone-ins. So, what exactly is it that Harry and Meghan have done wrong? There are some fairly obvious answers to that question. They may well prove to be the correct ones. Does Boris Johnson deliberately mispronounce words to distract from things like death rates? And free speech?
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock. More than 40% of deaths registered in the week to February the 5th mentioned COVID-19 on the death certificate. Just over 7,300 fatalities were recorded in England and Wales. That's down 13% on the previous 7 days. Our correspondent Rachel Venables has more.
Sadly, seeing very high weekly death rates being recorded, with thousands of people more dying each week than we'd normally expect to see at this time of year. But thankfully, the impacts of lockdown do seem to be playing out now, as COVID-related deaths in England and Wales were down again in the 7 days to the 5th of February by more than 1,000 to 7,320 lives lost.
The Vaccines Minister says early evidence on the effect of jabs on coronavirus transmission is encouraging. Nadeem Zahawi has warned the full data from Public Health England may not be available for some weeks. It's unclear how much of the current slowdown in infections is down to lockdown restrictions or the vaccine rollout. Around 70 people have been fined after police disrupted an illegal nightclub in Birmingham. Some officers were pelted with bottles as they forced their way into the building late on Saturday night. West Midlands Police also discovered a workshop in Dudley which had been turned into a bar called the COVID Arms. More than 100 figures in British theatre are urging Boris Johnson to secure visa-free EU travel for artists. The equity letter, signed by Sir Ian McKellen, Sir Patrick Stewart and Dame Julie Walters, warns new rules are a towering hurdle for the industry. It says a failure to act could cause irreparable harm to the UK's creative sector. And England's cricketers have lost the second test against India by 317 runs. The visitors were bowled out for 164 in their second innings, with the four-match series now.
You see, Mum said
Captain Joe Root
she didn't want you waiting there, yeah? So I was going to leave at 10:30 because I thought we should allow half an hour. But then I said, oh, well, okay, I'll leave at 10:35, you know. She even said leave at 22, you know. But I mean that was crazy, you know.
The FTSE 100 was trading up 17 at 67.73. The pound buys $1.39.
If we'd have left at the time that I thought was best, then you'd have been on time. But as it is, we're probably going to be 5 or 6 minutes late. Oh, actually, we're probably going to be. Well, it's 3 minutes past.
If you're an EU citizen with children or living in the UK,
yeah, it's just. Do you see that big building over there? That big block of flats?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Teeny Point.
Okay.
We just have to go in the tunnel and out the other side. You need to take note of where I'm dropping you off, yeah? Because that is where I will pick you up. It's by the stairs that you have to go up to go into Teeny Point.
EU settlement scheme. Irish citizens or those with valid indefinite leave don't need to apply.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
Very good morning to you. I do hope you're well. It's funny, isn't it, how the pendulum swings. It's the wrong word. The graph goes up and down. Some days the monotony of it all really gets to you, and other days it feels like, dreadful phrase, the new normal. I'm having one of those days where the monotony is really getting to me. I can't believe it's only Tuesday. It's partly because even though I don't work at weekends, the bulk of the day leaches inexorably into the one before and the one afterwards, doesn't it? And stress again how important you think it is that we all of us recognise that there are people considerably worse off than us. But some days you do just want it all to end. It is unbelievable. And I mentioned that part of this is the thought in the forefront of my mind this morning, but also because we are today going to succumb to temptation. Not like that. We are going to be distracted from the and again, with the caveat that the vaccine rollout, thank God for the NHS, is going brilliant. Thank God. That's all. Whether you believe in it or not, thank you. Just in case. Is that Pascal? Anyway, I am going to be distracted.
Get over to the left-hand side of the car, John, please.
Okay.
Because you may consider this stuff about to talk about to be a desperate importance, to be desperately important. It's just a bit surreal.
Okay, you see this big staircase in front?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, Teeny Point is directly above us, yeah? So what you're going to do, and this is where I'm going to pick you up from, okay? You're going to go up this staircase, alright?
Okay, thank you.
Alright. Have a good time.
Thank you.
See you later.
Red tape and increase freedoms, and you could read the Good Friday Agreement and the Single Market and Customs Union membership rules, as it were, and actually see a way in which the two, leaving one, could be compatible with the other. And on all of those examples, it turns out there's nothing wrong with my lenses, but the people wearing the distorting ones, the people who claim that we have less red tape, more freedom, no possibility of the border in the Irish Sea, no tension whatsoever between leaving the Single Market, the Customs Union, and the Good Friday Agreement. And quite prominent people insisting that what they could see was clear and correct, and what people like me could see was
was wrong. And then Donald Trump, you look at Donald Trump, those of us again who looked at Donald Trump, and it's hard to pick a point. For me, looking back, probably the public mocking to a cheering crowd of a disabled journalist, actually doing an impression, a crass and clumsy impression of a disabled journalist, and watching the faithful lap it up. And of course, watching prominent media figures on both sides of the Atlantic resist any temptation to condemn. Or if they did condemn, it was always with a but. You know, something about emails and Benghazi was usually used to excuse Donald Trump's behavior. So again, you watch Donald Trump for the last 4 or 5 years, thinking, what is it? Why can't people see what's going on here? So, in the spirit of liberalism, honesty and decency, I think I'm on the other side of the fence today, and that the people, the problems that are being described in the media today, and we are, for the record, spending a day being distracted from the big stuff, all right? So we're not going to talk about death rates or, well, perhaps we should actually, because the infection rates finally seem to be plummeting. So good news will be shared. On the international stage, the numbers are still pretty grim. Just looking for the headlines that are entirely, second doses won't delay jabs for over 50s. Rapid tests could open door for pubs, clubs and theatres. Schools are not driving infections, study finds. The quarantine thing is a worry, but we weighed in on that yesterday. So I'm going to be temporarily distracted from the really heavy stuff, because nothing's changed between yesterday and tomorrow, except the positive steps I just mentioned. And if I had to knit together the three things that are currently bubbling away on the stove of UK media, they are all problems that I can't see. And that makes me think they probably don't exist. But they might. So, if I were to turn to the front of the Daily Mail today, and we always like the Daily Mail as a guide, if you like, to what the most powerful elements of the British establishment are trying to make you cross about today. And now that we've left the EU, of course, there's a vacuum that's been created, and we're desperate to find out what's going to move into it. So, Harry and Meghan, the final straw. This continuing negativity and nastiness directed at this young couple, can we say young? I think we probably can, baffles me. But, you know, it's a bit lazy, a bit obvious to reach for the fact that Meghan is of mixed race, and that must explain the negativity directed towards her by people who are usually fairly negative towards most members of ethnic minorities. That lazy? Well, it could be lazy and true, but you know what I mean? I like to resist the obvious conclusions. Maybe there are explanations as to why Meghan Markle takes such a kicking from pretty much every old white bloke in the British media. Actually, that's not fair. Some of them are young and some of them are women as well. But she takes such a kicking from pretty much everybody in the British media. And loosely speaking, yes, the people who were very quiet when it came to condemning Donald Trump, very noisy when it came to telling you that Brexit would increase freedoms, reduce red tape, there'd be no border in the Irish Sea. The people who were wrong about Trump and Brexit seem to be to me at the very front of the queue of people keen to give Meghan Markle a kicking. But again, maybe there's a problem there I can't see. Maybe there is some deserving, if that's the correct word, of the castigations that she receives. And don't forget that we live in a world. It's quite interesting seeing Anne Robinson get the Countdown gig and wondering, as my younger producer was today, whether or not her weakest link persona, which was, for my money, it was a pantomime performance. The best way to explain to a younger colleague how Anne Robinson, quotes, got away, end quotes, with being so unutterably vile to contestants on that show would be to say that she was a pantomime villain, she was playing a role. You could imagine Paul O'Grady doing it in full Lily Savage mode, and it wouldn't seem as controversial as it did when Anne Robinson did it in Anne Robinson mode. But the producer said, would she have got away with that these days, do you think, with Twitter? And I don't know, is the short answer to that. So you look at Twitter, and part of you wants to say, well, it doesn't really matter, you know, it's not proper media, it's social media, and not everybody's on it, and it doesn't care. But then you remember that actually, if you are not a, what can
could we say? If you're someone who is not supposed to enjoy free speech in this country, then you could routinely see your Twitter account taken to task in national newspapers. Yesterday it was Emily Maitlis's turn to get a kicking from the Mail for having liked a tweet that was critical of the government and then deleted it from Piers Morgan. I mean, that's the kind of thing that brings down governments. Absolutely outrageous behaviour. So it's tempting to say Twitter doesn't matter, but of course when the Daily Mail and the Times and the Sun start treating public figures' Twitter accounts as if they are desperately important, then the picture gets blurred, doesn't it? And I mention that because the point I was making was that wherever the mainstream media goes, so however vile a newspaper may appear to be, and columnists sometimes push the envelope much, much further than I think any decent person should, social media then is almost compelled to go further. So if the nastiest thing you ever read, and I'm not sure you should do this because it might put you off your brunch, but if you look back at how newspapers like The Sun reported on HIV/AIDS, not just in the very earliest days of the tragedy, but quite far into it, then imagine if social media had been around then and went even further than the newspapers did. It doesn't really bear thinking about. So wherever the newspapers go, social media goes further. It kind of has to. You have to go further to get noticed, don't you? If you are desperate to be noticed. And you look at that and you think, well, there's seemingly a significant number of people who are very cross with this young woman, and I have no idea why. But it's incredibly arrogant to conclude, as a result of that there's no reason to be cross with her. Just because I can't see it. Those headlines we did yesterday were pretty clear. I think the best was probably the wedding bouquet, actually, more than the avocado. So they both had the same flower in their wedding bouquet, and the Duchess of Cambridge had her wedding bouquet written up in sort of Mills and Boon style, whereas the Duchess of Sussex was reported as having put the life of Princess Charlotte at risk by having the same flower in her wedding bouquet. The avocado story, in case you're wondering, saw the Duchess of Cambridge given one by a well-wisher via Prince William, because it was supposed to be a cure for morning sickness, and the Duchess of Sussex's reported affection for avocados saw a story linking her to drought and famine as a result of avocado harm. I mean, it was just hilarious. I'll go back to that later, actually, because looking at some of the replies on social media, people who didn't watch it were saying things like, well, their behaviour is completely different, so of course they're going to get treated completely differently by the media. And the whole point about those 20 or 40 headlines contrasting one woman who married into the royal family to another woman who married into the royal family is that they were doing identical things. But one of them had it linked to drought and famine, and one of them had a Mills and Boon morning sickness headline. I genuinely can't believe it. And I used to be a tabloid journalist. I used to write for one of the newspapers that was at the forefront of culpability on that front. So the three things I'll knit together. I don't see any threat at all to free speech via universities, but it's 25 years since I went to one, so things might have changed. And I open up the Daily Mail today, and the bloke who is writing under the headline, "Academics like me live in fear of the woke hate mob," I thought I recognised his name, so I did a quick Twitter search. Last time I interacted with him, he threatened to sue me, or he threatened to contact his lawyers. So I don't know how does that work? And I don't know whether or not Meghan Markle has done something that explains her routine castigation at the heart of, well, not just the British media, but the British public. And of course, where the media leads, the public often follows. So it's 10:15. I don't know if I've got the psychic energy to confine this conversation to people who think that she is the devil incarnate. And I'm absolutely adamant that it's got nothing to do with her skin colour, and it's all because of things you read about in newspapers and chose to believe. So I'll phrase the question in this way, with your permission. Why does she get such a hard time from pretty much every corner of the British media except this one? 03456060973. And if your answers are compelling, then we can join the others. Oh, it can be very lonely in the British media, being liberal and open-minded and anti-racist and honest. It can be very, very lonely. So if there are reasons to hate on Meghan Markle that have nothing to do with any of the above values, I think I'd quite like, actually, to join in with everybody else. If the reasons are valid. So why? does she get such a hard time? And if that's too broad a question, why shouldn't they give an interview to Oprah Winfrey? On a personal level, I'm gutted. We came a very close second. In fact, there are two elements of bad news in today's media, which, you know, as a middle-aged bloke, I have to take my medicine. Anne Robinson has beaten me to the countdown job, and Oprah Winfrey has beaten me to the Prince Harry interview. I cannot, but heads are going to roll. Keith's career here is on a knife edge. He was charged with landing that interview with Harry and Meghan, and he was so close. Indeed, you should have heard the phone call on Sunday night. Poor fellow was in tears. He promised me he'd get me the Meghan Markle Prince Harry interview, and I thought I was over the line for the countdown job as well. But hey, we all have our crosses to bear, and those are my crosses today. They are nothing like the crosses that this poor couple bear, as far as I can see. And I would remind you, I'm a former tabloid showbiz journalist, so I might know a little bit more about how tabloid showbiz journalism works. I might know a little bit more about it than you. I wasn't a very good showbiz journalist, but I did end up as a section head. I was a show business editor of the Daily Express. So I'll take your guidance on many issues, but probably not on how the newspapers prime and groom you to hate on undeserving people. So, the question becomes, do they deserve any of this abuse? 0345 6060 973. What exactly is it that they've done wrong? 0345 6060 973. And if they're going to be misrepresented and maligned in the media on an almost daily basis, the Duchess of Sussex recently won a legal case against the Mail on Sunday, then they have to give an interview to Oprah Winfrey. If you wrote to your dad, and your dad flogged it to the papers, and you wanted to get your side of the story across, what would you do? That's a good question, actually. What would you do? Presuming that the opportunity to set your stall out with Oprah Winfrey's help was on the table, I presume most of us would take that, wouldn't we? Did I ever tell you about the time I met Oprah? Oh, forget about it. Let's take a break.
This is LBC. Money doesn't grow on trees, so it's no wonder you're frustrated about all the money you've lost due to being missold a stocks and shares ISA or investment bond by your bank. Don't accept it. AMK Legal, an actual law firm, are ready to assign a personal lawyer to your case. You could get your money back in a matter of weeks. There's no paperwork for you to worry about, and what's even better, there's also no upfront fee. Simply text